Good evening, everybody. This is our fourth and final virtual student panel this fall, which I think I've said now twice in the same sentence. Um, I am actually going to mute myself and turn it over to our fabulous panel of currently 4 and hopefully in a few minutes 5 students. Our emphasis tonight is talking about being a minority on Oberlin's campus. If you have any questions for our panelists, feel free to comment them on the Oberlin blogs, and we'll make sure that our students.
Okay. So, hey everybody.
For future watching as well. Cool.
Hey everybody. My name is Alex. I'm a third year from Chicago. I study Africana Studies and Sociology and History here at the college, and I currently live in African Heritage House.
Oh, and my name is Chol. Nice to meet you all. I am a fourth year here. I'm a senior, and I am an East Asian Studies major with a minor in chemistry. I currently live in village housing, but the past 2 years I've lived in Asia House, which is a program house on campus.
Oh, okay. I'm Linda. Sorry. I'm a sophomore. I actually live in Asia House right now, and I love it. I've lived there the past 2 years. I'm studying Comparative American Studies and Africana Studies, and I am in 2 a cappella groups on campus, one with Tiffany, who is going to introduce herself after me, and then one called Nothing But Treble. The one with Tiffany is called Solfege. And I'm also on the chess team, and I'm on the board of La Alianza Latina, which is the Latina Alliance on campus.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tiffany. I'm a second year here at Oberlin in the college. I study theater and Africana studies. And like Linda said, I'm in an a cappella group called Solfege, and I'm also in a group called Acapellicans. Yeah.
Oh, also, I guess I should say what I do. I'm a Posse Scholar. I'm a Mellon Fellow, so I do undergraduate research at the college. I'm the co-chair of BABUSWA, which is our Black Student Union, and I'm also a blogger, where you should be sending questions. And so our first question is why Oberlin and how we all found Oberlin. So I can start if no one else wants to, or if anyone's dying for it. Okay.
There you go.
So I found Oberlin because I'm a Posse Scholar. So Posse is a nationwide organization that recruits student leaders within high school and brings them to different private liberal arts colleges, trying to diversify the campus and diversify the workplace. So that was my introduction to Oberlin, but I actually came through our multicultural visit program, which is now called Access Oberlin. And I got to come to campus twice and visit and meet professors and meet my future community members here. And that was a really great experience for me. It's an all expenses paid weekend trip from Thursday to Saturday morning. You get a student host, and so you get to live in the dorms with them for a little bit. You can go to classes here, go to different events. And that was how I got acquainted with Oberlin. I also had an admissions interview and loved it and really fell in love with the community here. So that was how I found Oberlin.
I actually found Oberlin in a really similar way. I'm not a Posse Scholar, but I am in the Questbridge Scholarship group. So it was on the list of colleges that were partner colleges with Questbridge. And then I also came on the multicultural visiting program, which is now Access Oberlin. And that's when I really just fell in love with the campus, and I felt like I could live here, which was a really big deal for me. Being from New York City, I wanted to find somewhere. I wanted to go somewhere small, but I also wanted to be somewhere that I felt like I could be comfortable and live and still have a lot of fun things to do, even though it's a small campus. So.
The way I found Oberlin, I guess, was kind of different. I grew up in Ohio, actually. I moved to Ohio when I was 3, and so I'm also first generation, so I didn't really know much about colleges. My family didn't know much about colleges, and I kind of applied to a bunch of places my friends were applying to. And since I'm from Ohio, a lot of students were applying to Oberlin from my high school, and that's kind of how I accidentally found out about it. And so how I decided to come here was through simply visiting the college and doing an overnight visit. I visited several other colleges as well, and I found myself feel most comfortable here. And during my visit, I found that the Oberlin Korean Students Association was doing a biennial conference during the time that I was at Oberlin. And so knowing that Asian student organizations had some kind of presence on campus and that they actually existed here was a huge factor for me because I grew up in a community where there were not many Asian people at all. Actually, I was like the only Asian Korean in my school. So coming here, it was one of the things I was looking for.
I also was a QuestBridge scholar, or am a QuestBridge scholar like Linda. And I also came on the Multicultural Visits Program, now known as Access. I was probably more nervous to come for the trip itself than to come and visit the college. But as soon as I got on campus, I was immediately welcomed by everyone in African Heritage House, which is where my host lived at the time. And unfortunately, I didn't get to hang out with her a lot, but I was taken in by all the other residents of African Heritage House. And every single question I had, they were absolutely open to answer the question. There, so very clear. And they were just so welcoming, and it was a community that I could definitely see myself in. And also, to be very frank, Oberlin was the place that offered me the most financially, which is a really important deciding factor for me when going to college. I went to a very small Quaker school in Virginia, and so I wanted that same type of community. So Oberlin had that small, tight-knit thing that I was looking for, but also they were very willing to work with me financially so that I can be here. Our next question is, how did you find community on campus, and what spaces have become your homes? You want to take it over?
I'll take it. So for me, community on campus has definitely come from our Africana or Black community here. My first year, I got introduced to ABUSWA, which is our Black Student Union that I'm currently the co-chair of. And folks in ABUSWA were really the seniors and juniors who really opened up to me and really let me know what this campus was and how to navigate it and what the challenges would be. And those folks ended up being some of my closest friends. And though they've all graduated now, I find myself being that person for other people. And then the Africana Studies Department, which I'm a major in, they're definitely just like family. And they're always here at the house, which is African Heritage House. And so I've really been able to insulate myself within the Black community here and take leadership roles, but also have those support roles, which Tiffany talked about in terms of the house always being home for us. And that's something that we re-emphasize. And we just actually had a Kwanzaa celebration, and everyone got up and sang afterwards, and we're running around and having a great time. And like, that's always family for me. That really helps me to deal with not being at home a lot of times too.
And I guess for me, finding community also came with African Heritage House. But also being a theater major, I guess I'm actually a friendly person that clings to other theater people. And that department on campus is very close. So I automatically was taken in by the older people in the theater department and the professors there. And the thing that's really nice about here is a lot of professors teach in more than one department. So I have teachers who are both in theater and Africana studies. So I can learn from them in like two of the same classes every day, and I see them twice a day. And so they become like your mom and your dad and your aunts and your uncles, and they really are there to comfort you and to give you advice. They're also there to give you that tough love that I've been needing, and it's been really helpful. Also, doing acapella on campus, you also have that other little family that you may not necessarily see every day. But when you do see them, that's a good, 1 or 2 hours at a time that you're together just to sing. And that brings you back together, and the sense of community is built. And so you see each other around campus, and you're like, hey, it's my pet sister, or it just depends on which group you're in. But I really enjoy having that community there.
I think I have a similar like experience finding a home in an a cappella group. I had a really bad a cappella experience in high school, but there was only one group. And so that was my only choice to really like sing the kinds of songs that I wanted to sing. And so here at Oberlin, not only do we have several groups that we could be in, but also, I mean, like all of them are so great, and all of the people are so great. And so for me especially, my host that hosted me when I was a prospective student at Oberlin is now in my a cappella, well, I'm in her a cappella group. And so that's a great experience for me because a lot of the people that I met when I came as a junior in high school or a senior in high school, I'm now in this like group with, and I now like call my like some of my closest friends, and those are the people that I see 3 times a week for like 2 hours, kind of like what Tiffany was saying. And so you just end up spending a lot of time with them, and you're all passionate about the same thing, and I think that also like creates a sense of home. So that for me was important. And then also La Alianza Latina, which I was talking about before, which is just like a Latina alliance on campus, and that was a really nice, or still is a really nice space for me because I came from a school where I was the only Latina, and so like having that group on campus, and also like finding other New Yorkers that are also Latinas is just like a great place for me. And also like I can take that home and have those same people at home, and then create communities from where I'm from and also here at Oberlin. So.
I personally have found a lot of different kinds of communities on campus that I personally felt like I was a part of. And one of those communities happened to be the Oberlin Korean Students Association, and also the Chinese Students Association, and all of the other Asian student organizations on campus, just because they were so welcoming. And I personally, although I am Korean American, since I grew up in America, I didn't really connect with my Korean heritage as much as I wanted to, and I wanted to learn more about it. And it was a little difficult for me because I felt like I was supposed to know about myself. Like, why don't I know more about my Korean past because I am Korean? But these communities have helped me kind of like navigate that and kind of figure out like how I should feel about my own personal identity. And that is something that I really appreciated because I feel like it's something that I would have had a hard time navigating by myself. And also, like, through my classes, I actually met a lot of people who I did study groups with and kind of got through all of my difficult classes with, especially a lot of the science classes. um, and by working with these people through homework assignments and problem sets, I kind of got to know them better, and we became friends. And that in itself is your own little community, and they can become a support group, especially when academics get a little stressful at times. And so those are the kind of communities that I found at Oberlin. And so let's see. I guess now we're gonna have Ale do his introduction. Or not. Is he here?
Yeah, yeah. So, my name is Alejandro. I am a second year in the college. I haven't declared yet, but I intend on double majoring in computer science and sociology and minoring in dance. And I'm from New York City. So to hop on this question, so to answer this question, I think how I find community on campus is kind of like what the people before me said, through the people, but specifically I could talk about being a part of OSCA, which is Open College Cooperative Association. And so I eat in a co-op, and so that means that I eat with the same people, around 100 or so students every day, and we cook our own meals, and it's really awesome because like seeing the same people every day and having that kind of closeness and community is really good because we get to discuss a lot of issues as well as just like really get to know each other on like a personal level that you can't get at other places. And yeah, so yeah, that definitely became my home. So, you know. So I guess I could introduce the next question, which is, can you speak about a strong relationship with a faculty member? and what has this relationship allowed you to do or achieve on campus? And I can also start answering if that's cool. I think that um, I definitely have bonded a lot with my computer science professors, and especially from my intro course, I've definitely like was able to build that relationship. I would go to my professor's office hours and we would like talk about computer science related stuff, but also talk about like completely unrelated things such as like TV or like music, which is pretty cool. And that's been really great because I actually am over winter term, which is uh, happening over the course of January, where we don't have any classes and we have to do projects. I'm actually working with the computer science department and building some really cool tools that will be useful for other students in the future. So yeah, that's kind of my answer.
Yeah. So going off of that, like I said, the Africana Studies Department is very near and dear to me. But I'll talk about Mellon because we don't often get a chance to talk about undergraduate research. But we have two undergraduate research fellowship programs here, which is the Mellon Mays Undergraduate Research Fellowship, and then we have OCREF, which stands for Oberlin College Research Fellows. And the Mellon Fellowship is a paid fellowship, so you actually get paid to do research. So you get to talk about things that you love, investigate them, build all these skills, all these talents that are useful both in the academy and in real life. And then you get paid for it. And who doesn't love money? So the research that I do is on racial stratification in education. So basically talking about why different racial groups achieve the way that they do in school and what the national conversation around that is. And so I focus on Black students and talking about their performance and achievement in the national debate around that. So that's that spiel. But my mentor, his name is Clovis White, and he's a professor in the sociology department, and he is amazing. I can't rave enough about him, but he's really helped me, one, to refine my research interests, but also he's been a really great support for me in terms of helping me figure out things that I want to do. We talk about grad school, we talk about my courses now and how I can fold in my Mellon research to the classroom, and that's been a really useful skill too. I actually want to get published in like an academic journal, so this summer we're going to do an intensive somehow and get me ready to be published at like before 21. So who gets to do that? That's awesome. And I'm really excited about that. And that's a relationship here on campus that I really value. And he's amazing and awesome. And I have so many of those happy stories about professors who are just exceptional.
So something that's really great about Oberlin, I guess many colleges do this. So if you decide, or when you decide to come to Oberlin, you have to fill out all these forms and things online before you get to campus. And one of those forms is an advisor form. And you can either choose to be randomly assigned to an advisor, or like what I did, I went and I knew I wanted to do theater at least. And I saw a woman's name of Professor Caroline Jackson Smith. And I was like, she seems cool, so I ended up choosing her as my advisor. And I got to campus, and the advisor's main job is to help you register for classes, and to check in with you periodically during the semester to see how you're doing. And in my case, it's having a second mother who keeps me in check. Mama Caroline Jackson Smith is such an amazing person. And what I love the most about working with her is that we can talk for hours about schoolwork or about theater or about Africana studies or about anything. She's actually my director for a show I'm doing during winter term here on campus called Dessa Rose. And it's amazing so far just talking to her about the show and how that relates to my life now and how it will affect me in the future. Advisors in general are really good people to have on your side, and they're those people that you can go to and be like, I'm confused, I'm stuck, I haven't turned in the paper in 2 weeks and it's really late and I don't know what to do, help me. And it's their job to calm you down and let you know that everything's going to be okay, because it really will be okay. And just having Miss Caroline has been such a great thing. And I know when you pick a major, you are assigned a different advisor, or you can choose a different advisor. But thankfully, me doing theater and Africana studies, Miss Caroline is in both departments, and I already chose her, so I don't have to leave her. Just makes me really happy.
All of my academic advisors and I guess a lot of my academic mentors have been through the East Asian Studies department just because I'm a major, and I've taken a lot of classes there. And they've been, I don't know, they've been not only advisors, but they've also been kind of like my friends. I'll go into the department office all the time and I'll just see whose door is open and just like talk to them. And I think that's very valuable because not only are they there to support you academically, but they're also there to support you in any way they can. And it's fun to talk about different things with your professors just because, I don't know, it just is. That one-on-one.
Oh. We're having some technical things. Hold on a second, guys.
He's coming back. Ah.
Okay.
I can talk about, and to cut Chul short, but if you come back, you can always just be like, hey, I'm back. My advisors, actually, I had a pretty rough time coming in. Not that like the faculty isn't fantastic, but my like quote unquote like favorite or like advisor wasn't capable of being my advisor because she was here as a visiting professor. And so I took all of her classes. I took 3 of her classes last semester, but now she's gone, which is sad, but I'm also happy for her. And she's like off and like publishing things and being awesome. And I still email her for recommendations, and she's still a great person for me, even though she's not here like present, like in person at Oberlin. But also just faculty members that I like have grown really close to are people in admissions, because I work in admissions now. And it was, I mean, I've always loved admissions and I've always worked for admissions as a host, but I never really thought about like pursuing like working in admissions like past anything like in college. And now that I've worked there and like met all these awesome people, it's totally something that I would like to do after I graduate. And so I just have like a lot of great people there. Chul, if you want to go.
All of a sudden, I don't know what happened. Let me try to remember what I was saying. Okay, so basically, I guess what I was trying to say is they've been a really big support for me, especially in trying to find out what I want to do after I graduate, because I'm a senior right now, and it's kind of like knocking on my door. It's like, Chul, what are you going to do next year? Chul, what are you going to do next year? And like my family members are all like pushing me. And so a lot of the faculty members were very supportive. They've written me a lot of recommendation letters for a lot of different things, and it makes me feel bad. It makes me feel bad that I have to ask them all the time, but then I know that they're going to write me really, really meaningful recommendation letters just because I feel that close to them. And I actually received a fellowship like last week, so now I'm all good. I have something for next year.
Congratulations.
I got the Shanti Fellowship, which is a fellowship that's given through the Oberlin Shanti office, and basically I'm going to spend 2 years in Japan teaching English at Oberlin University in Machida, Tokyo. So I'm excited for that. And I think I wouldn't have been able to do that without the support of the East Asian Studies Department and all of my academic advisors. Oh yeah, so the next question, I guess I'm introducing it, is what are you planning to do for winter term? I guess I could answer that first. So basically, as a Shanti Fellow recipient, I am required to do a winter term where I learn how to be an English teacher. So I will be TESOL certified, which is teaching English as a second language, and that's like a 100-hour course that sets me up to teach English wherever, which is like really cool. And it's actually a class that's available to anyone who wants to take it, so it's not exclusive to Oberlin Shanti recipients. And I think that's really cool because a lot of things on campus are accessible winter term wise for whoever wants to do it.
For my winter term, I applied to a bunch of internships through the Career Center, and I hadn't done that my last year. Last year, I was like, I want to go home. I want to work on music. I want to arrange music for my a cappella group. So that's what I did, and I felt like I wasn't, not that I wasn't doing enough, but I was in my house a lot, and I wasn't like out experiencing things, and it was also really hard for me to like be motivated to do my like schoolwork or be motivated to like get a job outside of what I was doing, so which I can't really afford to do. So this winter term, I actually got an internship to be an assistant teacher, but because I already assistant teach where I am like promoting myself as a musician because that's also like a passion of mine and something that I want to do, and I'm doing that on all sorts of social media platforms, and I'm also just writing about it and how like difficult that is, even though I live in New York City, which is like supposedly this hub for like musicians to like flourish and all these things, but then it's like really rough when you're actually out there. And so I'm talking about that for my winter term, and then I'm also hoping to get 2 jobs while I'm home, which is not always necessary for everyone, especially if you're on top of it with like your grants and things, or not grants, with your somebody help me out with the word when you like apply to get money so that you can do your winter term.
Funding.
Okay, yeah, well, funding. But there's a lot of stuff that Oberlin does. Like there are a bunch of different funds that you can apply for. But I just wasn't on top of the deadline this year because I had a second wave of midterms, so I wasn't really ready for it all. I think if you're like definitely on top of it, and you're on top of your winter term funding, like you're gonna be fine. And it's definitely a lesson that I learned the hard way. But I'm not opposed to working, so hopefully I just like have a bunch of good experiences doing things I haven't done.
Yeah, definitely. So going off of winter term funding, I guess I can speak. I've actually gotten winter term funding twice. So this year for winter term, I'm doing a photography project. I call it photo term.
Yeah, photo term.
But I'm basically going to buy a DSLR camera, so the really fancy camera that everybody wants, but nobody can afford. I got money to buy one. To self-teach myself how to do photography and to just take photos at home. So I really just want to celebrate like my Black identity while I'm at home and things that I do. And then I'm also taking the camera with me next semester because I'm actually going abroad to London. So I'm in the Oberlin in London program. And I'll be taking the camera with me and taking photos. And then since I blog, all the photos are going up on the blog. And then my aunt will read it and love it and share it all over the place. So that's what I'm doing there. Last winter term, what I did was I went to New Orleans and I taught. And I learned the educational landscape down there in preparation for my Mellon research. See how everything's connected. But I did that, and I was there for a month with my mentor who used to work in our Office of Admissions, and then I went with my best friend. And so we were in New Orleans just having a great time and learning and working and pulling really long days. But we got a lot done and helped a lot of people, so that was great.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, I'm staying on campus this year for winter term, and I'm terrified because cold. This is that. Last year for winter term, I actually directed one act at my old high school. So I stayed home for the month, and I pared down a 2-act long show down to about 20 minutes. And got through characters from a good 12 or 13. And it was a lot, but it was really fun. But this year is going to be much different with the musical. And I'm the lead in the show, so I can't really have off days. And it's a musical, so lots of singing and movement and big things happening. If you're in the Oberlin area the first week in February, come see me.
You want to do the next question?
Sure.
Okay. That's right here.
Let's see. The next question is, how easy is it to get a job on campus? What sorts of jobs are out there? And what has been helpful to you in managing your time around jobs and everything else you're doing on campus? I can definitely speak to this. I have 3 jobs on campus that, other than hosting or doing panels, I work for Central Dining Services, or Campus Dining Services, I'm sorry. And so that's working for the dining halls on campus, whether that be serving or helping clean up or swiping everyone's meal cards. It depends on where you are on campus and which dining hall you're in. So on Thursdays, I work at African Heritage House Dining Hall. So the food is very community soul food oriented. So I serve there once a week. And then I'm lucky enough to not have any classes on Friday this semester, which I'm going to try and do next semester again if I can. So I work a 4-hour shift at Daycap, which is our kind of mini grocery on campus, and you can also get freshly made smoothies and sandwiches and wraps and salads and things like that. I also work for Central Ticketing Services, which does all of the ticketing for all the theater and dance shows on campus. So I usher shows, I house manage them, and I also do sales. So somehow through all of that, I get work done. But the cool thing about working on campus here is that you're making pretty good money for a college student, which is really nice, and you get paid every 2 weeks, which can definitely come in handy because college is not cheap. But what's really nice about having a job on campus is that it's kind of introducing you to what life might be like after college. So I'm doing my work. I have class from like 10 a.m. to like 3 or 4. Then I have an hour to kind of get myself together. Then I have work for 3 or 4 hours. And then it kind of teaches you how to manage your time, which is something that's really important in college, and learning how to be accountable for yourself. And also it's teaching you basic skills, how to call your boss and let them know how if you're going to be sick, or how to find a sub if you can't work for one day because you have a show. I've done that a lot this summer. So it's just teaching you basic communication skills and things that are really useful to know.
I would say that it's really easy to get a job on campus. I have 2 of them right now. I work at admissions as a senior intern, so I do a lot of projects around the office. And I also work at the science library as a circulation assistant. And they're actually a lot of fun because I get to know my coworkers very well, and they actually become really good friends of mine. And so it's been really helpful in trying to, I guess it's been really helpful with me finding out how to manage my time better, because now I'm forced to use Google Calendars and like mini notebooks in my pocket so that I don't miss a meeting or so I don't miss a work shift, because a lot of people are depending on you to come to your work shifts, especially because at the library, if you don't come to your shift, then there's only one person working at that time, and that could be a really huge stress on that person working. Like they can't even go to the restroom if you're not there. And at the admissions office, if I miss a shift, then they're all gonna be like, "Where's Chol? Where's Chol?" And I'm gonna be like, "I'm not there. I'm sorry." So it really teaches you the weight of being like of having to like go to these things and like the consequences of you not going to whatever you have to go to. And that's something that I think will be very important in my future as well. So I'm glad I'm learning it now while I'm here.
Yeah, I also have a couple of jobs on campus. I work in the admissions office as well, with Linda.
Yes!
And,
Tell them what we do.
yeah, we are the overnight host coordinators, so we we help with just organizing all of these prospective students that come here on campus, as well as like matching them, making sure everyone is feeling cool and everything is going well. I also work with CDS, like Tiffany, except I cater, which is pretty awesome because it's pretty cool because you don't it's a one-time thing, and like you don't have to like go weekly. You kind of just sign up whenever you're able to, and so it's a great way to make some quick money if you could commit like 4 to like 6-7 chunk of time. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I also work as an overnight host coordinator, as Alejandro said. And I guess just like talking on how easy it is to get a job, it's pretty easy to get a job. It's not easy to get the job that you want, especially if you didn't plan it before you came to campus, which is what a lot of freshmen don't really know. And so definitely looking online, looking at just like Google it, like Oberlin jobs, and it'll come up with PDFs. But there's also an application to work in the library. So there's the Central Library MUD, and then there's a science library, and those have like very different fields. And if you're in like departments, like that will be in the science center, a lot of students like to work in the science library so that they can like go to their labs. And then alternatively, like a lot of people like to work in MUD just because like that's the space that they like to be in, and it's like bigger, and you can talk on the first floor. And so just like really thinking about where you're going to be spending your time, because when you have a job that you love, it doesn't really feel like work. I mean, it still is work, but I really love my job, and I'm having a great time, and I have like great coworkers, obviously, but also just like the people that I work with in my job are great. And the application process was a little bit difficult, especially because I learned about it late, so I had to get recommendations, and I had to like work on my resume, and it was a whole bunch of work that I had to do in the span of like 3 days. But I'm really glad that I ended up doing it, because now I have like one of the best jobs that I've ever had, ever. So I definitely recommend trying to be an OHC.
So I guess I can attest to this question too. I currently this semester I'm in 5 classes and I work 3 jobs, and it's a lot, and then I run a student work. So it's definitely a lot, and time management is really important. The one thing I've discovered about time management is that it shifts from semester to semester, so you can't have just like one method of time management and think that it's going to work all 4 years, because it doesn't. It changes like by midterms, it changes again by finals, and then it's different next semester. So that's that. As far as getting a job, it is fairly easy to get a job. I actually work in student employment, which is the office that will help you when you get your job. So what's really important to know is when you want to work on campus, definitely check the classifieds, which is something that you can Google. Just type in Oberlin College classifieds or the classifieds. That's where folks go and list if they're selling things, or if they have textbooks that you might need, rides, furniture, need a job, types of things like that. All of that's on the classifieds. That's a really great place to go. To figure out jobs. And then when you come to campus, you can come in with your job set. So another place that I work is financial aid. And that was a job that I had found on the classifieds and applied for. And then in my first week, I interviewed, set up my schedule, and I was working by like Wednesday of the first week of classes. And so that can happen. You just have to be really prepared. Like Linda said earlier, you have to really be on it and know. And if you're not, like, that's okay too, because you can always work in campus dining services, which is CPS, or just anywhere else on campus. But it's really important to know that you need to like come into student employment so you can see me and fill out tax forms, and I can help you like navigate the process of working. I also blog, which is really fun, because I get to write and people get to read it, and I get to talk about things on campus and things in the world and connect it to Oberlin, and that's always really fun. And so that's that. And our next question comes from Julia. Hey. Which says, are there many international students at Oberlin? And would you say that Oberlin is generally more accepting of minorities? Ooh, that's a big question. Big question.
Can I? Oh, do you want to?
No.
Okay. Can I? Okay. Just on the international side of things, and then the accepting of minorities is a little bit different. So when it comes to international students, there are a lot of international students, but a lot of them are in the conservatory. A lot of them are double degree as well, and that's just partially because it's a lot easier to be a double degree student in Oberlin, especially if you're here in the conservatory. A lot of conservatories like don't allow you to be a double degree like as easily, just because of physical, like the conservatory isn't near the college, and also just because of like credits and transferring. So there are a lot of international students. Double degree is when you have a degree in the conservatory and you have a degree in the college. And so that means that you're going to be here for 5 years, which is a little bit more time. But if you are in a world-renowned conservatory, I think a lot of people realize how much work that is, and how impossible it would be to get that amount of education and then also have an like a working major in the college. And so that's what double degree is. And then I think, I mean, I'm not an international student, so I can't like speak to those experiences. But as everybody has their own like experience as a minority, and it's also like very much coming from like if you're comparing it to other places or if you're just like comparing it to like in Oberlin. And so for me, when I came to Oberlin, I was like, oh my goodness, like there are so many people that look like me, because where I came from, nobody looked like me, and I was the only brown person. And so when I came here, I was like, there are communities that I'm here in. But on the other side of that, like to be critical of a place, like as a minority, like there are people that like don't understand what you're going through, and especially like in light of like the current state of like the world, especially America, and like with Ferguson and like with all these like shootings and all the like and protests that are going on, and like being a big part of those protests, I think a lot of the times it's not directly people being on like not accepting people, but it's people not understanding a lot of the times, or people wanting to help and not expressing that well, or people like not understanding what spaces are important for you to like be in and what spaces are important for you to not be in. So I think a lot of people here are good at asking questions, and depending on who you are, sometimes those questions can be extremely offensive, and sometimes like it's not everybody's job to answer those questions either. And if you want to like come out and take the role of like answering those questions, like know that it's going to be uncomfortable, and know that a lot of people aren't going to have the right vocabulary or even just like the right state of mind to ask you questions in like a correct way. And so I think just like from my point, after having come in here and been like, oh my goodness, other brown people, now I'm a lot more like, well, like as a brown person in this space, like I'm learning how to like navigate that, and I'm learning how to like talk to other people that like don't have the same experiences as me, which isn't something that I ever had the opportunity to do in high school.
Yeah.
Yes. Diving into that really quickly, something that I find really helpful, and like Linda, you hit it right on the nose, is this idea of finding yourself when you come to college, and whether that be just as a human being or anything else. For me, it was personally being a young black woman in America, and having a community that you can talk to about that is extremely important. And Linda, you mentioned safe spaces, and just kind of mentioning what that is, just in case anyone doesn't know. Safe spaces are set aside for certain groups of people. And Oberlin, they're extremely important, and everyone tries their best to respect them. So African Heritage House, for example, where I live, is a safe space for Black and brown people, or people of color, also known as POC. And so there are also safe spaces for others who identify with the LGBTQ lifestyle and all that comes with that. And it's one of those things on campus where it's going to get uncomfortable. And there are going to be conversations that you're not going to want to have with people. But part of coming to college and having the next chapter of your life is having those conversations and realizing how to deal with them and how to be productive and not just arguing with people. So sometimes being a minority on campus can get really uncomfortable, especially with what's going on now. It's a lot of where do we go from here? How does this affect me? How does this affect my community? How does this affect the college as a whole? So it's a lot of questions, but we're in the midst of answering them. And definitely being a minority on campus, it's one of those things we can't ignore.
One thing I actually really appreciated about Oberlin is just the fact that I've been able to learn more about these things, because in my own hometown, we didn't really have many minorities at all, like I mentioned before, and so I never had these kinds of conversations. But I did know I had a lot of difficulties because I'm also a person of color, like I'm Asian and I'm a minority, and so like I've experienced a lot of like, I guess, racism, not necessarily in my hometown, but just in general. And so like coming here, like I've been able to talk to people, and I think what I appreciate about Oberlin is that people are willing to have those conversations with you. Maybe they might not be able to articulate them very well, and they might have questions that aren't exactly like easy to answer and kind of offensive at times, but you're always having these conversations here, while at other places in the country, people might not be willing to even listen to you, or might not willing to like even give you the time of day, you know. And so that's something I appreciate. And also just the fact that like all of my friends want to talk about these things. Like I've talked about what's happening around the country with my friends from other places, like from back home, and like none of them really care that much. I feel like, which is horrible because um, like it's just such a big part of my life and other people's lives, especially like brown and black people in the country that are experiencing so much racism and like police brutality. Um, so I don't know if Oberlin is like more accepting than other places of minorities because I don't know what we're comparing it to exactly. But I would say that conversations are happening on campus, and that's a step forward.
Okay.
Oh, should I answer? Oh, sorry. I should say the next question. I just like kind of lost my train of thought.
Because you gave such an insightful answer.
Great. So
Thank
good.
you. Okay, let's see. Sorry, I'm just like not very good at articulating my thoughts, so like it took a lot of energy. But so next
Beautiful.
question. Next question is, what have you learned about yourself since beginning at Oberlin? Does anyone want to answer that? Or-
I can go first. I have learned that I do a lot. That sounds it sounds really vague, but I'll elaborate. But just I realize I take a lot on in terms of like I'm really ambitious as a student and as a scholar, which is why I was crazy enough to take 5 courses. But just I like so my freshman year I was taking 200 level classes. So like 100 level is your freshman year, and then 200, 300 it goes up by class year. But I was taking advanced courses from day one when I could get in here. I got really involved in the campus community. I took leadership positions as quickly as I could. I was that freshman who was meeting with deans and talking with high administrators from like midterms of first semester, which is crazy because most students don't have that experience. But I was just that kind of person to step up and to do that. And so I think for me, what I've realized is this newfound confidence in myself to really make the most of my college experiences in the ways that feel most comfortable for me. And so sometimes stepping up into those roles isn't comfortable. Like, for instance, I was really scared to blog, and Mayan and I have had this conversation about, well, how do I give people something that's real and that's tangible and valid and can speak to a variety of experiences, but I only have one experience? And then what do I do if people don't receive that? And like, what does that mean? And going through that identity crisis. But I think being on this campus has one, like, given me the language to articulate that, but it's also given me the space and the comfortability in being uncomfortable to be able to engage in that dialogue about myself and about other people and community and society and all these other things that really matter to talk about. And so I found that just navigating this Oberlin space has given a lot of that to me and given it to me in terms of it's taught me that, but I've also seen how that conversation doesn't happen on this campus. And when I see that it doesn't happen, it makes me more motivated to bring those critiques and those nuances to the conversations that I have. And so that's what I've learned about myself.
Do you want to introduce?
Oh, sure. I can introduce the next question. So how strong is the LGBT community here? And is there a presence? Anyone can take it.
I mean, I know that there definitely is a presence. Like, in what term do you define presence? And I think that's just the way with like all identities on campus. And of course, as like any kind of minority, like it is hard to have like what your like group of people, like whatever your group of people is, like having what you want to say, like come out. to like a larger group of people and have everyone listen to what you want to say, especially when it comes to identities, and especially when it comes to like orientations, because I think, and that kind of comes along with like things that like I've learned at Oberlin, and just like, I don't know, like learning to be allies and like learning, I don't know, learning things about like what people see, like when they see you, like people see that I'm brown, but people don't see my orientation. And so I think like, I don't know, I'm not like a large part of the LGBT like community, so I don't want to speak on them, but just like in terms of like things that I have been to, like that have been put on like by people within LGBT communities, like there are like various events, and like there are definitely like having like being in like spaces of people with color, like there's collaborations within LGBT communities, not only because people of color are also in LGBT communities, but also just like when campus puts on events, like everybody, all like voices are heard in these events. I don't know if that answered the question.
Well, something that I really enjoy about Oberlin is that most people I've talked to are just totally accepting of whatever you identify as and whatever you want to do with your life. Um, and so whether that means that you identify with the LGBT community or not, everyone is welcome to hearing you. And from my experience, I haven't seen any sort of what's the word for what? I'm losing my word. Anyway, from what I know and being a part of that community, I know that I feel accepted. And all of my friends, especially black and brown people who identify with the LGBT community, have found a home. And the allyship is really strong here. And if it isn't strong at times, then we can have those conversations and make them stronger, which I really enjoy. And I really appreciate as well. Let's see. Next question is, what is one or more resource that you found that you wish more OBs knew about?
The MRC.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely new OBs, not so much old OBs, but even older OBs, whatever, that know about it. Don't go to the MRC. The MRC is the Multicultural Resource Center. It's where a lot of just like groups, meetings, like for me, La Alianza, like we have all of our board meetings at the MRC. It's also a place you can come in and take a nap. It's also it's also a place that you can talk to like other people. Like a lot of people are graduates, recent graduates who work in the MRC who like aren't Oberlin students. Oberlin students do work in the MRC if that's something you want to do. But for people who aren't students, it's like mentorship that's close to your age, but not necessarily like so close that you don't feel like that's like an adult figure. So that's something that I appreciated there. Also just like having a safe space, like what Tiffany was talking about before, like safe spaces to just like talk about how you're feeling, which is like very underestimated on campus. But if you're feeling a certain way and like you need that just like validation, which is not important for everyone, but is like very important for me. And so a lot of times I feel things and I'm like, I don't feel like anyone else feels this way. And if I go to the MRC and I'm like, hey, like, is anybody else feeling this way? No one's going to look at me weird or anything. So I think that's like a really great emotional resource. And also just like when it comes to winter term projects or like classes you want to take or like looking at a new advisor, like it's a really great resource for that.
For me, Student Academic Services is a really great resource and something that I used coming in my freshman year. And so Student Academic Services, it's in Peters and it's on the first floor. And it's really great. Dean Brenda Gramiller, she is in there and she is absolutely phenomenal, like phenomenal as a person. And so is everyone else who works there. But basically that office will help you get adjusted to campus life and not just like transitioning in initially, but definitely just as you navigate your years here at Oberlin, they're really supportive in terms of like giving you a planner, telling you how to read for classes, because you don't have to read everything word for word, line for line. You can skim, or you can learn how to actually search for things. You can learn how to write and do different skills. And so that office supports you in that way. As far as Brenda Greer Miller is concerned, like she's definitely been my spiritual basis here on campus, and not necessarily just in like directing me to church, but being a person in my life who's genuinely invested in me and is concerned like for my health and for my spiritual well-being while I'm here and just looking out for me. She's definitely a mother figure, so it's always nice to be in an academic building and getting able to come into an office and be like, hey mom, how are you? And that person like grab your face and love you and give you everything that you need. So she's great. And they also put on this program called First in the Family series, which is really great for first generation students because they bring back Oberlin alum who have graduated within like the last 10 or 15 years. And they come and speak about their experiences being here in, in Oberlin and how they navigated being a first generation student and what some of those challenges are and how they were able to navigate that here and then how they also navigate it now that they're in the professional workforce. So they talk about that and it's great and it's like one speaker per semester and they just do really great things to support students. If no one else wants to speak on that, I can do the next question. Or were there any more thoughts? Next question? Okay. So what are some projects or conversations that you've been involved in that you hope to continue and develop outside of Oberlin?
So for me personally, I was one of those theater kids in high school who did not know a lot about um, any theater or playwrights that weren't Eurocentric or considered like American classics, quote unquote. And then I got to Oberlin and discovered several different black and brown playwrights I didn't even know existed. And so I realized that the black and brown theater community on this campus is really strong. There's a group called Suke that was started by Avery Brooks. If y'all have seen Star Trek, he is definitely there. He's a great guy. And so it's one of those groups that kind of flows in and out depending on who the students are and who wants to keep it going. But it's a black theater group that puts on plays whenever they want. Or if they want to just get together once, twice a week and knock out some scenes and play around for a couple hours, and that's exactly what we do. And that's definitely something I would like to take outside of Oberlin, not necessarily the group itself, but the idea that there are so many different avenues to learn from, especially with things happening lately in America with anti-Black violence and having those sorts of conversations. I feel like finding different ways to talk about these things is really important. For me, being a student at the time, double major, theater is one of those outlets that is really helping me get through this and helping my community get through this. So I'd love to find a way to bring political theater, if you will, out into the world. So I think it's really important. I feel like a lot of things can connect to it. Okay, and our final question for tonight. What advice would you give to senior year you going through the college application process?
You want to go first?
Oh, dear.
You should go, Tiff.
Dear senior Tiffany, it's going to be okay. I feel like I say that only because no matter where you decide to go, you can find your way and you can find ways to be happy. My main thing was that I was going to go somewhere for college and I wouldn't have any friends and I wouldn't know who to go to if I had problems. But what I realized coming to Oberlin was you can always find a space. You can always find those people to talk to. And they may not be the first or second person you go to, or they may not be what you expect them to be, or spaces that you expect, but they're there. You just gotta find them. It's okay, you can breathe. I know it's stressful at the time. And also just understand that the application is a whole process. It's not just an essay, it's not just scores. It's a holistic approach. And I know Oberlin especially really looks at everything in your application, like not just scores, not just essays. They want to meet you, they want to talk to you. They want to know you as a person, not just you on paper. So just know it's going to be okay, I promise, I promise.
I think on that same note, don't waste your energy where it is not needed. And so in that way, I think especially for me, I applied to like 17 colleges, I think, which was definitely a waste of my energy. And mostly because I was so indecisive, and mostly because like I didn't have the ability to go and visit everywhere that I wanted to visit until like much, much later in the process. But I think I definitely stressed myself out. I definitely thought that like because other people, I went to a prep school, so like everybody in my school was applying to the same schools, and I felt like I had to apply there, even if that wasn't what was right for me. So I think like not being afraid to do what you like to do. A lot of like I'm not saying like don't do what your parents want you to do. I was really lucky to have a mom that was like very, very supportive of whatever I wanted to do, but also just like thinking about yourself, because you're the person that's ultimately going to be living in that space, maybe for 4 years. Also, like college is where you like really make your own decisions, I think, or you at least start to make like a lot of bigger decisions and like more adult decisions. And so like this is like your first step in making that decision. So like don't waste your energy, I guess, like thinking that whatever decision you make, A, is going to define your life, because at the end of the day, that's not the truth. Though you may find great people and that might define your life. Like if you make a decision that you think is bad, that's not going to define your life. And if you're stressed out, like take a break and just like know your deadlines and be smart about it and do what you ultimately feel like you want to do.
I guess my advice to myself, I guess 4 years ago, would be to be more on top of it. I was actually really stressed out about what colleges I wanted to apply to. I didn't really know much about the application process, right? And so when I was looking at the Common App, I kind of put it off because I was so afraid of starting it. Because I don't know, I'm like really bad at writing about myself. I was really scared about the prospects of like leaving my house and like leaving my hometown and doing something new. But I think it's okay to be like not only excited about it, but a little like worried and afraid and anxious at the same time. Start your application like earlier than a week before it's due. And also, it's okay to not know what you want to go to college for. A lot of pressure that I felt from my parents and from people that I knew was like, what are you going to major in? What are you going to go to school for? But then I think what's also important in a college is like the community that you're going to be a part of and how nurturing and caring the community that you're going to be a part of is. And so that's something that I wish I had considered more earlier in the process.
Alejandro, do you want to go?
Yeah. Something that I would have at least told myself is to, if you're able to reach out to people, I think I took this process pretty like internally, and I felt like it was just like, oh, okay, I have to do this, and like if I don't do this, like you know, the world will end, and like I need to apply to all of these colleges. But I think like reaching out to people would have helped, and it's like completely okay that if you can't do something like by yourself. I definitely would really suggest that, and also just like embracing your emotions. I know that like this is a new process if you're like applying to colleges, and that like what you're feeling is like very real. I was like really scared for a long time. And I was just like, oh, I shouldn't be scared. I shouldn't be nervous. But it's like completely real. I'm like really just take that and like really just bring it with you. And I think like with those emotions, it's like, and those feelings, is like that's what's gonna like propel you and like really encourage you. I don't know. At least for me, it's just like my like nervousness about like what I wanted to do really just encouraged me to like explore like all these different subjects and all these different classes here. As well as just like hopping on a previous point, like it's completely okay not to know your major. Like I said, I still have intentions. I'm not even like completely declared yet, and it's like completely okay. And I go home still, and like my family asks me like, "Have you decided your major yet?" And I'm like, "Give me a second." So that's yeah. And so I think those are the tips that I think I would like to give.
Well, Alejandro just stole everything that I have to say, so I don't even have anything to add. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. college application process actually went really well. I applied to 13 schools and I got accepted to 12, so I didn't do too bad. And I was done before Halloween, like applying to all of them. So on that note, like I did fine, but I think in choosing the school, well, for Posse, my decision for Oberlin was made, but there was definitely a good 48 hours when I told my parents, I don't care how much money Oberlin's going to give me, I'm not going to go. I don't need it. I don't want to sing. I don't want to act. I don't need to be there. And like looking back at it now is one of the dumbest things I had ever said. But I realized that for me, I didn't want to deal with my emotions, and I didn't want to deal with the fact that Oberlin is this really prestigious institution with this specific kind of history, and I would be dealing with folks that I wasn't necessarily used to dealing with. And I think that was really scary. And I didn't have the words to say, I'm scared, but somebody tell me, like, just go and do it. And I also think because I'm a really self-sufficient person, like I did 13 apps, so no one really sat down and helped me with that. That was me like crafting my resume. That was me going to people and saying, I need this by this time, and creating Excel sheets and calendars and all of that by myself. So I guess my advice to senior me would have been slow down. You don't need to do the most. Just something I tell myself in college all the time. I guess I would also say stop being so stubborn and so unwilling to try things that are new and exciting and thrilling and shiny, but also scary, which is something I still tell myself in college. And I guess the last thing would be don't be scared to let people that you don't necessarily know love you and want to help you. Because what I found at Oberlin is that folks are really willing to help for the most part. And if you ask for help, most of the time you're going to get it. And when you don't, those are the times when you really rise up and you advocate for yourself and you find other people to advocate for you with you. And that has been the most rewarding thing that I've gotten from this experience. And so I would have told senior me all of that was coming, so just relax.
To all of our fabulous panelists, oh my God, my brain has exploded. To everyone who has watched, all of our huge audience for this evening, thank you so much for your questions. Thank you so much for listening and for being here. To all of our panelists, I suppose I should have switched back to my face rather than Alex's. Sorry about that. It's beautiful, so are all of the rest of y'all. This panel, along with our other three from this semester, will be archived on the Oberlin blogs. If you have any lingering questions, ask them in the comments. We'll pass them along to some of our past panelists and see what they have to say. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much to our panelists. Have an excellent December, and good luck on all of your applications.